Hello, Mrs. Stewart's ninth grade reading class, and welcome to the library. I am Mrs. Benjegerdes-Wiegreffe, and I am assisting Mrs. Stewart by teaching you about copyright. To give you an idea about what we are going to learn today, here is the lesson overview. First, this lesson aligns with the International Society for Technology in Education, or ISTE, Standard 6B. Students create original works or responsibly repurpose or remix digital resources into new creations. Also, this lesson aligns with the TEKS for Grade 9 English Language Arts and Reading, Number 11, Part H. The student is expected to display academic citations, including for paraphrased and quoted texts, and use source materials ethically to avoid plagiarism. The objective for today's lesson is that students will define copyright laws, its components of fair use and public domain, and demonstrate their understanding by completing activities. Finally, this is the outline of the lesson. We will discuss the history of copyright, why we have copyright laws, what exactly is copyright, what works are protected by copyright, what works are not protected by copyright, how works are protected, what are the exceptions to copyright law, and finally, why should you follow copyright law? So first, let's discuss the history of copyright law. Did you know copyright law was included in our Constitution? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, also known as the Patent and Copyright Clause of the Constitution, states that the Congress shall have power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So what does that mean? That's the old English way to say you can't just copy someone else's work. But there are exceptions, and we will talk about those in a minute. So, why do we have copyright laws? Copyright laws protect authors, artists, and other creators. Copyright laws prevent their creative works from being copied. Copyright laws also allow creators to receive credit and compensation, or money, for their work. Without copyright laws, creators would be discouraged from creating works because they and their works would not be protected. Anyone could copy or use stuff that they have created, call it their own, and receive all the money and fame for it. And that's not cool. Now that we know a little bit of the history of copyright, let's delve a little deeper into what exactly is copyright. Copyright literally means the right to copy works. And copyright law protects the right to copy works. And since it's in the Constitution, it is available to all citizens. According to U.S. copyright law, the author, creator, or owner of an original creative work have the exclusive rights to copy or distribute an original work to the public, create new works based upon the original work, and perform or display works publicly. This means that only the author, creator, or owner can do these things or give permission to other people to do these things. Violation of any of these is called copyright infringement. It's illegal and may be punishable by fine or prison time. So what works are protected by copyright? According to U.S. Copyright Office, the following works are protected by copyright: literary works, music and lyrics, dramatic works and music, pantomimes and choreographic works, photographs, graphics, paintings, and sculptural works, motion pictures and other audiovisual works, video games and computer software, audio recordings, and architectural works. Copyright applies to all of these things, no matter how you access them, in print or digitally. And you may not use some of these for Mrs. Stewart's assignment, but it's always good to know what is copyrighted for future reference. So let's talk about each of these briefly. Literary works include books, both fiction and nonfiction, poetry, student work, reports, and speeches. Now, each of these includes those you make in school, not just those that are formally published. Also, remember that this applies to both electronic and print formats of these sources. Music and lyrics include sheet music, accompanying words, and melodies or tunes. Dramatic works and music include plays, musicals, operas, and the music that accompanies these works. Pantomimes and choreographic works include dance movements and patterns, choreography, and performance art. Again, probably won't use these for this assignment, but it's cool information to know. Photographs, graphics, paintings, sculptural works include pictures, maps, cartoons and comics, and other forms of art are all copyrighted works as well. Remember, whether accessed electronically or in print, these works are still protected by copyright law. Motion pictures and other audiovisual works, including films, DVDs, and videos, are all protected. Video games, computer software includes computer programs and computer code, video game code, CD-ROMs, if y'all know what those are, and other media that a game or software is on are all protected by copyright. Audio recordings of singing, musical instruments, readings or audiobooks, podcasts, or radio programs are all protected by copyright. And finally, architectural works, including designs for houses, office buildings, churches, and museums, are all protected by copyright. Now, this is a lot of stuff protected by copyright, but don't worry, not everything is protected by copyright. Some works are not protected by copyright, so let's talk about those now. Here's a list of things that are not protected by copyright, and we will discuss each in turn. Ideas, procedures, methods, systems, processes, concepts, principles, discoveries, including facts, formulas, and even basic recipes are not protected by copyright. Titles, names, short phrases, and slogans are not covered by copyright. This includes band names, titles of books, pseudonyms, which are pen names or pretend names authors use when writing, domain names and URLs, character names, and business names are all excluded from copyright. Familiar symbols and designs, such as any symbol on a keyboard, abbreviations, common patterns like polka dots, checks, or zigzags, and even emoticons are not covered by copyright. Typefaces, fonts, lettering, and even just mere variations are not protected by copyright. You may not need this for this assignment, but any blank form is also not protected by copyright. Finally, and maybe most importantly, works that are not fixed in a tangible form, in other words, works that have not been recorded in some form, whether paper, video, audio, or some other electronic form, are not covered by copyright. So as long as it's in your head, it's not copyrighted. Now that we know what is and is not copyrighted, let's learn how works are protected. As soon as a work leaves your head and is made or recorded in some form, it is protected by copyright. A work does not have to have a copyright registration or a copyright symbol, which looks like a C in a circle, for it to be protected by copyright. Once a work is in a tangible form, copyright law protects works by regulating the rights to make copies of a work, distribute the work itself or copies of the work, to perform the work, or recreate or modify the work. These rights belong to the creator of the work. The author or creator of a work can reserve or withhold the rights to their work, or they can grant the right to others to copy, distribute, perform, or modify their work. To use something that is copyright, you have to ask permission from the creator in writing. That means you have to communicate with them in writing that you wish to use or modify their work and receive written, so not verbal, approval to use the work. Now, once a work is made, copyright lasts the life of the author plus 70 years after the author's death. After this time period, works move into the public domain, where copyright rules do not apply. So, what are the exemptions to copyright law? We know that you cannot just copy someone else's work as your own, but there are exemptions to things that are covered by copyright. If you get permission from a creator, or if the work is part of a Creative Commons, it is exempt from copyright law. Also, if the work is in the public domain, usually because it's old, it's exempt from copyright law. Any works by the U.S. government are also exempt. And finally, if you use a work according to the rules of fair use, which we'll talk about more in a minute, they are exempt from copyright law. So, if you get permission from the creator in writing that you can use the work, it is exempt from copyright law. Also, if the work is under Creative Commons, it is exempt from copyright law. Creators who have put their works under Creative Commons, which is designated by 2 capital C's, have waived their rights for that work. If a work is under Creative Commons, you can use that work according to the specific permissions given by the creator. Sometimes works in Creative Commons will be completely free of copyright. Sometimes there will just be restrictions on how you can use the work. Works can also be exempt from copyright if they are in the public domain. Works are in the public domain if they were created before 1923. Works are also in the public domain after 70 years since the creator's death. Also, any work created by the U.S. government is exempt from copyright law. So that means that anything that you get from a website that ends in .gov is not protected by copyright. Finally, you can use works in a way that is exempt from copyright law called fair use. If you use a work that is for non-commercial purposes, it is exempt from copyright. If you use 30% or less of the original work, it is exempt from copyright law. If you alter the original work, it is exempt from copyright law. And if you use a work for criticism, commentary, parody, for news reporting, art, or research, each of these purposes is exempt from copyright law. So why is copyright law important? You should follow copyright law for several reasons. There are ethical and moral reasons, so you can give credit to creators, to protect work and encourage creation, and of course, legal consequences. It is your duty as a responsible citizen to follow laws, even copyright laws, so you can perform your moral duty to give credit to others for what they have done. It's not nice to take credit for something that is not yours. You should also follow copyright law to give credit to creators for their work. Copyright law ensures creators will receive credit for any works they create. When you follow copyright law and give credit to creators for their works that they create, it protects the work and encourages creation. Because of copyright law, creators are reassured that they will be given credit for their creations, and their creations should be protected. This encourages more works to be created. If creators do not have this protection, they will be less likely to create things because they know they may not get credit or compensation for doing so. Finally, there are legal ramifications for violating copyright law. You can be fined and even be incarcerated for violating copyright law, though the severity depends on whether the violation was intentional, how severe the violation is, and how much profit was made by the violation. Also, and probably most important to you, is that violations of copyright will get you points deducted from your assignment, or you can even get a 0. So this concludes our lesson on copyright laws. The following are references I used to find the information for this lesson. If you would like to learn more about copyright, you can visit the U.S. Copyright Office online at copyright.gov, and the tab about circulars gives the most concise and helpful information about copyright laws. If you have any further questions about copyright after you leave today, feel free to stop by the library. Thank you so much for your attention, and I will now turn it over to Mrs. Stewart, who will give you instructions for your next activity.